or don't you?
You see in capacity building workshop,
Yes, we do.
proposal writing.
Okay, but you see it as slideshow. You don't see the you know, the
Image.
Yeah, just the image. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Once again, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for the attendance. It's I saw there were more than 50 people online participating, which is great, but also of course poses some challenges. First of all, I hope that as Minister Jordan said, this is something that has been a long time coming, and for me this workshop is a bit symbolic in the way that this what should have been a trip to Barbados and a workshop that we should have been done with everyone in the same room was the one that basically started the end of travel for me back in March. That was the one that got cancelled, and of course now it's taken half a year before we finally now have decided and gone around to try to do this, but in a virtual format, which has its own challenges. So I hope and beg for your for your patience and your engagement, because this can be very quick and very boring, depending a little bit on you, because if you don't engage and don't respond, then it will be me droning on and giving a couple of presentations, and we will finish very quickly. But it will also not be very interesting, I think, and it won't be much of a workshop. It will basically be me saying a lot of stuff about proposal writing and donors and RBM and so on. And I'm not sure how useful and how valuable that will be. So I really hope that even though this format is not ideal for it, it would have been great to be in the same room and engage that way. This is what the world is right now, so we will try to make the best of it the way it is. When asked initially to be involved in this exercise by the UN, by the RCO and UNDP, as well as of course the Ministry of Labour, I had some doubts initially, sort of wondering what do I know about this, and am I qualified to do this? And in the end, I concluded that first of all, I have actually done trainings on this, but mostly, of course, for the ILO's more traditional constituents, for governments, for employers' organizations and workers' organizations, in one way or another, mainly proposal writing and design of cooperation proposals, projects, so on, has been part of other types of capacity building. And I think more than anything else, because in my now, I think it's about 25 years in the ILO, I've had the good fortune of having a few successes, but also a few failures when it comes to writing proposals and bidding for funds, and also both written them, designed them, negotiated with donors to get funding for them, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much, and implemented them, monitored them, and evaluated. So I've kind of been at every end and side of proposals and projects in the ILO. Also, actually, before joining the ILO for a brief stint of a couple of years, I was actually sitting at the donors table. So even there, and it's been a couple of decades of learning by doing. So hope that some of it will be useful also to others. Since we are going to spend a couple of mornings together, I think it would be great to that not only I introduce myself to you, but also that you introduce yourself to each other and to me. So I think maybe we could start with a quick round of doing that. That of course poses let's say the first technical challenge of this morning, which is how do we do that without it becoming a chaos. So I suggest that we try. You will all have I think on your screens this participants button, and I believe also, and I ask our hosts to to interrupt if that is not the case. If you click that, you will get a list of participants, and then you will also get a button which says raise hand. So I would like to ask you to do that and see if that works, and raise your hand, because then you should sort of get your names up with the raised hand in a row. And basically we start introducing ourselves from the top. Should we try that and see if we can have because right now I have a problem because I can't really see that screen. So you see that's the, and basically tell me who you are and and each other who you are and who you represent.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Samuel Dean, and I represent the Cancer Support Services here in Barbados. I am a member of the Interim Management Committee, and I spent the last 2 years as a committee member. I am trying to develop not just an intimate knowledge of cancer as it affects individuals in Barbados, but to be able to assist the organization with respect to preparing proposals and interacting with the other sectors of the society. Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear? Hi, my name is Gail Craig Archer, Barbados Olympic Association.
Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is June Jackson, Executive Director at God Center in Antigua and Barbuda.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Griffith, the Addictions Counselor from the Center for CASA.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Harper Hall, and I'm representing the Barbados Boxing Association.
Good morning. I'm Claire Griffith, representing the National Union of Public Workers in Barbados. I'm an Industrial Relations Officer here at the National Union of Workers, NGO. And in my capacity, we assist employees in terms of construction of the terms and conditions of employment agreements. We also represent our members in employment grievances. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marlene Hall, and I'm representing the Barbados YMCA. I am director on the board as well as the treasurer.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Jana, and I'm representing the Barbados Netball Association.
Good morning, Nisha Cragwell, also the Barbados Netball Association.
Good morning. My name is Donald Padmore. I am representing the Barbados Evangelical Association, member of the faith-based associations. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Alison Gote, the Director of Clinical Services at the Substance Abuse Foundation, which houses Burden House and Marina House Drug Rehabilitation.
Good morning. My name is David Denny, and I am representing the Division of Youth in the Ministry of Youth, Sport, and Community Empowerment, and I'm the Youth Projects Coordinator. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gwenosia Chandler, and I am a member of the Women Entrepreneurs of Barbados, WEB.
Good morning. My name is Maureen Hall Edie. I'm a retired accountant representing myself, basically, but I'm also associated with Caribbean Center of Excellence for Sustainable Living.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Salmon, and I'm representing Bango.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Belgrave, representing Barnard Inc., Barbados. I'm on the board of directors.
Good morning. My name is Sean Cook. I'm representing the Barbados Council for the Disabled. I'm also on the board of directors.
Next.
Good morning. This is Trudy Griffith speaking. I am currently the president as well as a trustee of the Diabetes and Hypertension Association of Barbados, and I also chair the National Major Group in Barbados.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Griffith, and I'm representing the Women of Purpose Ministry.
Good morning. I'm Claire Garnes, Recruitment Officer at Barbados Youth Advanced Corps.
Good morning, Sharon Rose Gittins, representing the Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers, where I sit as president.
Good morning, I'm Melissa Branford Jones. I am representing the Barbados Boxing Association, second vice president.
Next.
Good morning, I'm Roman Ben, and I'm representing I'm a Girl Barbados.
Good morning, I'm Marcia Brandon, and I'm representing Bango, Barbados Association of NGOs.
Good morning, I'm Mary Thompson, and I am a nurse, basically here for educational purposes.
Next.
Good morning, Deidre Perch, social worker.
Morning, I am Nia Brathwaite. I'm representing Be Glad, the Barbados Gays, Lesbians, and All Sex Shows Against Discrimination.
Who's next? That wasn't everyone, no. I know there are.
Good morning. I'm Sophia Mounter. I'm a counseling psychologist focusing on working with children on behavioral change.
Next.
Hey, good morning. I'm Taryn Reed. I am the General Secretary for the Barbados Youth Development Council, and I'm representing that organization.
Good morning. I'm Norma Springer, first UNDP Program Manager for Governance in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, with a particular interest in NGO structure. The structure of NGOs and how they relate and integrate with policy and program delivery. Recently resigned from the board of Artists Alliance Barbados, an NGO focusing on arts, the visual arts. Thank you.
Next. Who's left?
Good morning, all. My name is Davina Lane. I am the Executive Director with the Intimate Hotels of Barbados, a small
organization. We represent the small and indigenous hotel sector. We have about 46 members. Thank you.
Can those who are not speaking please make sure that their microphone is muted, because we have a little bit of background noise. Yeah. Who has still not introduced themselves?
Morning, everybody. My name is Michelle Holder. I was invited by Dr. Marion Brandon, and I'm listening in for personal interest. My background is service delivery and client service management and assisting small businesses with their advertising and marketing.
Anyone else?
Hi, good morning. My name is Osawe John. I'm a student at UWKFL, and my background is civil with environmental engineering. And in my field, I think proposal writing is something interesting, so I'm listening in.
Good morning. My name is Sonia Kadavian. I was invited by Sharon Rose Gittins. I'm listening in, and I am a counseling psychologist with an emphasis on mental health and advocacy. Thank you very much.
Who else have not had a chance to introduce themselves? Or is that everyone?
Good morning, I'm Sandra Smith. I'm a consultant. I've worked in the private sector and in international development.
Thank you. Who else? I will give it 10 seconds. If I hear nothing, then I will assume that we have everyone. But...
Oh, I'm Sonia Hines from the Anglican Church.
Thank you.
I'm Mama Springer. I believe I spoke earlier.
Yes. Morning.
Good morning. I'm George Sharon, an Anglican priest.
Morning. So, do we have everyone now? Everyone has had the chance to, or?
I'm George Sherwood, an Anglican priest.
Yes, good morning. How are you? Anyone else? Now I hear only silence, so I will start to assume that everyone has had the chance to say who they are and who they represent. And what I'm hearing is that we have a very rich tapestry of different sectors of the Barbados civil society, which I find very exciting, and I hope that that will also be reflected in our discussions and so on. I heard several of you said that you were going to be listening in, and that's okay. It's allowed, but I hope that as many as possible do not only listen in, because as I said initially, if it is all of you listening in and I talking, then this is not going to be as interesting as it probably would be if you were engaging in a discussion with me, and maybe sometimes even disagreeing with me. That's always a lot more fun than just you know, me talking and droning on. Right. There, let me see if that is something that we have. I have to sort of check with our IT. Is there a chat function that's operational for everyone? Because right now I can't see it. Can someone tell me whether that is?
It's right at the bottom of the screen, Lars.
Yeah. I have mute, stop your participants, share, pause, share, annotate.
The chat.
And there's a chat, okay. I can't see it. Maybe if I temporarily take away the share screen, so don't. Then I get the chat back. Okay, so I'll put the screen share on in a little while, but I would like to start because one of the things that when we talk about proposal writing and writing proposals, we do that for a purpose. I mean, there might be several purposes. To write a proposal is a way for us to, in a way, structure what we want to achieve, the change we want to make, and also put on paper in a systematic way how we want to go about that and what it's going to cost and so on. But very often, if we sit down as either civil society organization or as worker or as employers or as a UN agency writing a proposal, it's normally because we are going to seek to get funding to do something. So very often a proposal for what's normally a project is an exercise we're engaging so that we can get money to do what we want to do, to achieve what we want to achieve, to get the results that we seek for the people we represent and work for. So to start very quickly, if everyone, I hope that you have that access to that chat function. So to basically click on that and go in the, let me see, chat, there it is, yes. So if I can ask you, and here is the first technological challenge of the day. No, this is the second actually. The presentation was the first. If you could, let's say normally if I'd been in the room, I would have basically have pointed to people and asked you, but if you could, when I say the word donor, what is the word that comes to mind for you? So let's do a little exercise of 5 minutes where you think a little bit about what is a donor? What does that mean? What does that mean to me? And put that word in the chat box. Yes, I see someone is doing financial support. So yes, it's working. So go on. I want to see quite a few more. I'll give it 5 minutes, and then we'll look through some of them and no need to think a lot about it. Just sort of the first thing that comes to mind. All right, it seems like it's the suggestions have dried up, and there are a few recurring ones, and they all make a lot of sense. So I just sort of financial support stakeholder. That's an interesting. Why is a donor a stakeholder? That is one that maybe we could discuss. Philanthropist, funding, financial aid, funds, support, benevolent giver. Yeah, I would say sometimes benevolent, sometimes there might be some self-interest there as well from experience. Charity donation, reciprocal impactful development. It's a good one. Money, assistance, someone to assist me. The person who gives the resources, financial or otherwise. That's a good point, that resources can come in several forms. It doesn't have to be money. It can be a staffer, for instance, that someone is, or other types of support. Investment. That's a good one. Investment. It isn't just something that's being given. Someone is investing in us. Someone who gives freely. Partnership, partner, stakeholder again. Funding partner. Charity. A stakeholder who has sufficient interest in the work to want to support it financially or with technical assistance. Or both, maybe. Financial partner. Good morning. Morning, international agency that give financial support, contributor, financial support, contributing to a project or a cause. Could be financial, but not always. Once again, that's a good point. Someone, entity you perceive has something of value to give, in kind or financial support, yes. So the words money, finance, support, which doesn't have to be, are going. So the main point is that we have a fairly similar idea of what donors are and what they do. And now comes third challenge. I hope that you still see the slide on the screen. Do you? Can someone confirm that you do that? That the screen is still shared? No, I took that away, didn't I? Right, let me see. So now you should have that back, do you?
Yes.
Yes, thanks. Good. So moving then to, let me see if I can make this become a slideshow. So right. So first then to go to a few donors, and some of you have mentioned some of them. We can run through a bit of them. I mean, donors can be, or partners, which lately many donors prefer to be called partners. They don't like the donors connotation as much because of this idea that the donor is someone who basically provides some money, who gives something to you, and then they stay away. While more and more you see, particularly the international agencies, like the country bilaterals, preferring to be called development partners. That yes, they provide the money, but they're not like, you know, a top-down type of thing that they go into a partnership with either a UN agency, a government agency, a civil society agency, or another partner to move something forward. It also, I think, has a connotation that this is not just done out of the goodness of their heart. It is something that that makes sense. There is very often well, an overall development sense. It's kind of, when we all do well, then well, if not all do well, then none of us do, can be the idea behind. And of course the let's say the more philanthropic point of view of wanting to help. So we have, and there is sometimes mere self-interest, and I'll come back to that a little bit from own experience. So what we have entities that are supranational, like for instance UN agencies that then provide funding through programs and projects through civil society. you have what we call the traditional bilateral donors, which are countries very often from the north, like you know, the US, Canada, Germany, the UK, the Scandinavians, typical donor countries to projects and programs of development. Then you have what was kind of called untraditional donors, the South-South, or which is often referred to horizontal cooperation donors. The big ones there that we often refer to are countries like Brazil and India, which on one side actually are recipients of development cooperation, while at the same time they are big enough, important enough, and with let's face it, with an let's say a foreign policy agenda that also implies that they do support projects and programs in other countries. In this region, one of the big so-called South-South donors is Brazil, and in the Caribbean we've also seen a few projects funded by India in one form or another. So they are typically South-South donors. They often call it horizontal cooperation because it's as a cooperation between development countries, and very often it involves an element of exchange of experiences between the countries or among the countries, which makes it maybe even more interesting than the traditional US aid, give me some money type of cooperation. Then you have the financing organization like the World Bank, and here the Inter-American Development Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, which normally are organizations that give credits, but there's also a small element of grants and support to different organizations through these. Then you have different foundations, and some of them are even linked to enterprises. You have the Ford Foundation, which sprung out of Ford Motor Company, but which is now completely independent, for instance. Then you have enterprises, and I have managed to print CSI here. It should be it should not be CSI. It should be CSR and not the I. I don't know how I managed to get the I there instead of the R, but corporate social responsibility. Often big companies have even whole departments of so-called corporate social responsibility, where they support causes, well, let's say, give back to the societies that they work with. And in the Caribbean, you actually can see it in some cases in the tourism sector, which currently, of course, is struggling, but more in the heydays. For instance, the big cruise lines that operate in the Caribbean, they also have a sort of a philanthropic arm where they do support projects and in the areas where they operate. So in this case, also in the Caribbean. International NGOs supporting other NGOs. So you have the big international NGOs that could support projects and programs with sister organizations at the national level, and etc., etc. This is not a comprehensive or complete list, but just wanted to mention that that's the things that are out there. What I also wanted to state when it comes to donors in that sense is that the Caribbean, because it's often seen as fairly rich, most of the countries are either middle or middle to high income countries, which often, particularly for the traditional bilateral donors, makes it a lower priority than other and poorer countries. I would say that, with the exception of Haiti, which is a special case in the Caribbean, most of the countries, and Barbados is one of them, are kind of often considered as too well off to be a priority. But that doesn't mean that there aren't donors out there with an interest thematically or geographically in the region. So just leaving that there now, and let me see. Trying to move this forward. So once again on donors, what are they looking for? Because there are some commonalities. And now I would like to hear also from you, because I will put a word on the screen. I would ask for volunteers to say what they think that word means, and why donors in their view would be very interested in that. And if I don't hear anyone, one of the advantages of being on Zoom is that I see all the names in front of me. So I will volunteer someone if no one volunteers, and I hope that's okay. So first one, it doesn't come in prioritized order. But one of the things that all donors will look at is described by the word delivery. So I'm asking for a volunteer who will describe to me what does delivery mean, and why is it important to donors? I will give it 10 more seconds, or I will just call out the name from the screen in front of me.
For me, good morning again. For me, it is producing what you said you were going to produce, because as someone has said already, it's an investment. So they want to ensure that you deliver on the service that you said that you were going to do. And obviously that builds, because there needs to be a donor relationship that shows integrity, and it builds trust.
Thank you. Anyone else want to chime in on that with anything additional, or maybe a different take on it? Yes, I have Melissa B.
Yes. Morning again. I would like to just chime in with the donor might expect a timely delivery of whatever it was you had proposed. So if you said that you were going to do it, or you would like to complete your project in a year, that they would like to see things progressing at a certain rate, so that they know, and that they want to see probably progress notes, in a timely manner, and that way they know that you're serious about what you're doing.
Thank you.
I would like to add to that.
Yes, please.
For me, I think delivery is based on what is planned out. It should go according to plan, or if there are actually setbacks, there should be ways to work around that, and the donors would like to see that they are getting quality for their money.
Good morning. I believe one of the things they would be looking at is the integrity of the organization and the capacity to deliver. So we could want to access funding, but do we actually have the capacity to deliver if we are funded?
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I have another one. Thank you.
Oh, I'd also like to add when I see.
Okay, let's start with Lorraine and then Claire. I think both of you wanted to say something.
Okay, I would say that delivery would entail the presentation, basically how you present your paper, the format, and if it has clear goals and objectives, so that they can understand exactly what it is that you want to bring forth.
Thank you. And Claire Griffiths.
Yes. When I think of delivery, think really of execution. Because the donor may be either philanthropic or it may be an investment. So when I say delivery, think of execution, executing whatever it is that causes a donor to be interested in the first instance.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Thank you very much. First of all, this was one of the things I was afraid of, that I would ask a question like that and then no one would answer. But now I'm I'm feeling a lot better about that. So I hope we can continue the morning this way, because I think it makes it a lot more interesting, and also it gives me an idea that that you have quite a lot of understanding of this. One of the things that made me happy was, for instance, that one of the first things that came off with delivery, because sometimes the first answer you get when asking that question is that they say, okay, they want to make sure that you spend the money. And yes, to an extent, delivery is also delivering on the funding that they're given to you, and some we have touched upon that. But the first answer was delivering the service, and which made me very happy, because it has to do with that. Basically, what the most important part of delivery is of course the delivery of what we set out to do. The funding is basically the tool we need to be able to do that. So that's very good. There was a point about the timeliness, which also is very important, that that in all projects, I mean, they always have a time frame. So it has to do with, once again mentioned, our capacity to deliver what we set out to do within the time that we are planning, or according to plan, as also one of you said here. So which also refers to quality for money. There were other good points, not mentioning them because we will come back to them. Some of you went even a bit sort of ahead of things. So you will see basically what you said kind of reflected in other things. So another word that they're looking for is results. Anyone, what does that mean? What is a result, and why would donors want results? Anyone, or do I start naming names?
Hi, I think donors would look for results because they want to know that they're spending on something that can actually produce something that's profitable for them, and they're not just investing their money without seeing what is being produced. So results is important in that way.
Thank you.
Evidence of the effectiveness of the project.
Thank you.
That the project meets its objectives.
They're looking for impact. So they want to be sure that having invested the funds, that impact is made in whatever the venture is that they're trying to support.
Mm-hmm. You would want results so you could evaluate how things were done and look at learned in certain projects, so you know that when you go to invest in something else, things that could come up and how to move forward from those.
Thank you.
Just to add to all what was said, results also provides opportunity for further investment and expansion.
I think one of the things results can serve as a catalyst for is empowerment for the organization, whether it be at a social, political, or economic level, and it can also create change, positive change.
Yes. Anyone else want to say something about results? No, that's okay. I mean, we will come back to all these things when we sort of go more into the nitty-gritty of it. This is just the, the opener. Yeah. Also, once again, good points. Results about producing something, and that's I think maybe the key that we very often talk about in projects. I mean, we look at that when we go more into the structure of project proposals and so on. We talk about what we want to do, And then very, very often we talk about the activities. And for most donors, and also basically in a results-based management type project, it's the results that kind of is the important. What is it we want to achieve? What is it we want to produce? And then from that should come what we want to do. What we want to do is basically just a function of what we want as results. Impact, very important. And of course, the results are what leads to impact. And another very good point was the results and demonstrated results through evaluation, for instance, is what can then lead to new opportunities because you have demonstrated that you're capable of delivering results. So, so donors will come back to you because you do deliver. You don't only do, but you actually deliver results. Added value. We talk a lot about that. Will anyone venture to tell me what it means? What is this added value we talk about when we produce proposals? We will always have a little section saying the ILO's added value is. Any volunteers? What is added value? What is that? Why is that important to donors? And
improvement on where you started.
anyone else? It's more quiet on this one, huh? Which I understand, and it was almost a bit expected. I'll give it a little chance, 5 seconds more. Anyone else who want to venture into what, when donors talk about added value, what is it that they're talking about? And we write about our added value in proposals. What do we refer to?
There are some responses in the chat.
There are responses in the chat. Okay, sorry, I don't see the chat right now. That's the problem. Let me see. I have a problem with the chat, and I might have need some, because when I have the screen share, I do not see the chat on my. Oh, here it is. I find it.
I also think that can include extraordinary, something above what other people are doing, something that's unique to the organization.
Evaluation of project success, this results. Yeah, there's one question about the slides. Yes, I will send them and they will be shared with everyone, just so so that's taken out of the way. Thank you. All right. Yes, added value. That is basically, when we talk about added value, we talk about ourselves. We talk about what this is where we pitch. Why should the donor give the money to us and not to someone else? What do we add to this? Where is our added value? Why is it that, to use an example, basically one that I know, because I can only talk about the ILO since that's where I work. It's, let's say there is a project, there is a problem related to child labor, and the ILO would like to develop a project to do something about child labor in this particular case. And the added value is, what does the ILO bring to a project on child labor that makes the ILO the right fit for the donors or partners that has the money for it? And that's where I would, and I'm using child labor as an example because I worked in the ILO's child labor program for many years and wrote quite a few project proposals on child labor. And typically what you then would talk about is, of course, the long experience in working on child labor, the global good practice that has been developed over the years through ILO projects. You would talk about in the case of the ILO, that we have international labor standards that we basically have put in place on child labor, conventions, and the fact that we have developed, let's say, a broad partnership base with workers' organization, employers' organization, other relevant civil society organizations, and other UN agencies in the country. And all of that brought together is what we then present as the added value of my organization. Why should you, let's say, Germany, give this money to me, ILO, to do this project? Because I add this value, and that's why you should give it to me and not to someone else. That's basically the added value. It's what we can do. It's where we pitch for us, because that's one of the things that donors really want to know. Why should I give the money to you? Let me see if I can find the thing that moves it forward. Why did that disappear on me now? There it is. Sorry, I went to accountability. Volunteers.
Transparency.
Okay.
For me, it also means an element of responsibility and ownership, doing what you said you would do, and knowing that the buck basically stops with you to make sure that what was agreed is actually accomplished.
Mm. Yes. Any other views related to accountability?
It's also reporting back to the donors as to what you have accomplished, the different process you're going through with the project.
Yes.
I think it's also a good record keeping and having a good track record of maintaining the appropriate information and processes that you can present to the donors at any time.
Mm. Anyone else? I see in the chat box from Patricia, responsibility for the funds which were entrusted to you. Yes, it is, but it's also, I think, I mean, all the very good points there, and you're there, and transparency. Actually, I think transparency actually has gotten its own point. So we will discuss transparency, but of course, accountability and transparency go hand in hand. But someone said something about, well, the responsibility, the ownership, the buck stops here for when it comes to the achievements, and of course the funds entrusted to you. And I think that in a way sums it up. It's that we are accountable. We're accountable for the results, and we are accountable for the funds towards the entity, partner or donor that has given it to us, and who is entrusted this tasks and these resources to us. And of course, donors want to see that, and as someone mentioned, the reporting, which we also meant, is an important tool, or an accountability tool in a sense. Although I'm not now kind of going ahead of myself, because one of the points coming up on this slide is related to reporting. Of course, there is where we show how we are spending the resources, how we are advancing on what we said we were going to do, and we are the ones who are to be held accountable for it. And the buck stops with us, and it doesn't get passed down the road. Even if sometimes, because very often in projects we work with other partners, it's not only us. Then it's simpler if it's you give me my inputs, my resources, and I deliver. But sometimes, especially when there's a bigger projects, we also rely on others. We work in partnership with others, and we might have to rely on consultants, for instance, or let's say the ILO gets a project on child labor, once again, going back to that. And we need to work with, let's say, on the ground in the country, in the community. We want to work with an NGO that is specifically working with children and support them to make them help us withdraw children from child labor, for instance. So you then depend on others, but in the end, you are the one who has developed the project. You are the one who has gotten the resources. So the donor will hold you accountable, not your partners. The partners will be accountable to you, but you are accountable to the donor. And here comes transparency as a separate point. Meaning, when we talk about transparency, what do we mean? It was already mentioned by one of you, and I think very rightly so, as a part of, let's say, the accountability framework. But why is transparency important to donors or development partners?
Operating in a way that creates openness between you and the donor.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Why is transparency important?
It helps to build trust between the donor and the recipient.
Thank you.
I think transparency is doing things by the book, which is the right way, and there isn't any hidden agendas.
Good point.
I think also to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Yes, I think we'll leave it there. I mean, there's many things you say about transparency, but yes, I mean, you have said the key words: the openness, the building of trust, the no hidden agenda, which also goes to the same to a certain extent that about the way of ensuring that there is no conflict of interest. Basically, all donors. At least all that I have had the good fortune of working with, they want the implementing agency, their partner, to be as transparent as humanly possible about everything. I mean, first of all, once again, going back to the reporting, that the financial reporting is very clear, very transparent, and it's clear what is it my resources is being spent on in what way. When there are problems, because very often in projects we have problems, that we don't pretend there aren't any problems, but that we go back to the donor and said, you know what, we have run into this snag. There will be a delay, for instance, and don't try to hide it. All these things, as was mentioned, builds trust, and trust is, and once again, we'll come back to this. The relationship very often is important when it comes to donors and development partners. So yes, transparency. Visibility. Why is that important? What does that mean, and why is it that donors care about the visibility? What is it they want?
Hi again. Perhaps visibility refers to the purpose for why the donors would be contributing in the first instance. So perhaps if it is regarding an investment, it may relate to marketing of whatever it is that you would have contributed to. And also that can work for philanthropy. Some philanthropists may not want visibility, but others may want it. But visibility may refer to the projects or whatever it is that they are partaking in, that it is seen by the general public for whatever purpose. That's my interpretation of it.
So hello.
Yes, Gail, we can hear you.
Okay, in our line of work, in my line of work, visibility for sponsors is key because that gets their product out there more. Um, for instance, if you have an athlete that wins a gold medal and you're being sponsored by one person and the athlete has another sponsor, for instance, a track athlete, and he's sponsored by Nike, he must wear the Nike shoes on the podium. Um, and we usually have a conflict with that because the person who sponsors the national team for a small country like Barbados, we know they'll definitely not be Nike. So the athlete will have a Nike or Adidas sponsor for the shoe, but we might have, say, I don't know, Cape Shepherd for the tracksuit. So yeah, visibility is the key for us at games. Everything has to be branded, and no cross branding, no mix up anything like that. So yes, that's for me. That's what visibility is. The sponsor, the donor needs to get his product out there, and the more visible the athlete, the better for the sponsor, and then that then trickles down to the Olympic Association, which then trickles down to the National Federation, which then trickles down to the country.
So does that translate into publicity or promotion or advertising?
Sorry?
Donors often are using public funds or taxpayers' funds, and the visibility allows their stakeholders to be aware of how the monies are being used, and they often will have an opinion on it. And I am aware of a case where DFID was investing money in a specific project in Barbados, and it had high visibility, and British taxpayers objected to it because Barbados was seen as the playground of the wealthy. So it leads into the transparency bit. In fact, sometimes it can create a conflict, but it is essential because the donors need the trust of their stakeholders.
Thank you. I will leave that here also because make sure that we move on. I mean, I find this to be a very interesting discussion. Also, the two examples that we got right now, I think they show from different sides. The sponsorship argument, I think, is excellent. Also because it's from a different type of support than the typical development cooperation. Athletes being sponsored by a certain brand, and yes, we've all heard about these issues that we have, particularly related to the Olympics, where some sponsors are some athletes in their individual capacity and in their daily life are sponsored by some brands that of course then suddenly ends up seeing these same athletes that they sort of own in a tracksuit by a different brand, and that sometimes causes a bit of friction. But once again, there is a clear sort of investment potential. I support this athlete with, well, both my shoes and with money, and Lionel Messi runs around the football pitch with Nike shoes, and all the kids who thinks Lionel Messi is the greatest wants to have those shoes. So they buy them, and that's what I get from it. So this is a very clear. I mean, the visibility is very directly linked to the investment. In the development sense, I think that was probably the most important part when you have, particularly the bilateral donors and those who depend on them, that very often and generally the funds that ultimately we get for our projects, either as a UN agency or as an NGO, are taxpayers' money somewhere. Someone is paying this in taxes, and then this is being channeled to do projects elsewhere. And the visibility of what these projects achieve, the results, is very important for them to be able to go back to their parliaments, to their voters, to say that yes, we are spending this money, we are investing this money, but yes, look at this, it gives results. And what you mentioned about the yeah, I see in the chat here recognition. Also, of course, there are agendas from donors that they would like to see themselves recognized. I mean, if I am USAID and I am spending a lot of money on building a school, then I want the world to know that I actually paid for that school, and then I put my logo on it, and I would like to see that. Another element to visibility, which goes beyond sort of just the recognition, the being able to defend what we're doing from the perspective of the donors, taxpayers, and so on. The donors, is also the importance. Very often when we do projects, and those we however big they are, they don't solve the problem. They address a problem where we maybe make a contribution to the solution. And sometimes during our project, we might develop a good practice or a model that can be replicated, that can be scaled up, that can be used by others, but only if others hear about it and know about it and learn about it, and that we document it and that we disseminate it. And that is also part of visibility. It isn't only about showing what the money goes to. It's also to make sure that what we produce that is good, that is replicable, that is something others can use and advance on, gets out there, and let's say our impact goes a bit further than just the one project that we do. Good quality reports. So why are those important? I think that many of you have already been touching upon that. So we'll do that one very quickly. But anyone wants to say something about why donors want to see good quality reports and why they are important to them?
Hi, good quality reports could ensure that if anything, the donor will be interested in future donations, essentially.
Yes, follow-up question there. Why does that depend on a good quality report?
If you have a good quality report and you are able to check all the boxes for donors, delivery, results, added value, accountability, transparency, visibility, and then you have good quality reports, well then it will tell the donor, okay, this is something that I can invest in future gain. And then obviously going forward, it may be a project that requires donations going forward for the future to execute something that is probably even bigger. So if you have the quality reports, then it would create trust, which someone would have mentioned before, and confidence what it is that you're doing. And then it can lead to further donations.
Thank you. Yes. I'm not going to open it a lot more, also because we're coming up on 11 o'clock. Let me see here. clear path for how will this also the progress of project? Yes. Good quality report, capture all the details of the things that donors look for. Yes, that is a big chunk of the point right there. That all these other things, very often the main way we have of communicating with the donor when the project is being implemented is through the reporting, the periodic reporting. You set up, you agree with the donor that you're going to do either quarterly reporting or 6-monthly reporting, depending on how often, and the reporting is very often both financial and technical, if you may. So we both use the reports to communicate with the donors how we're doing, whether we are delivering what we're supposed to do, whether we're on time, whether we are spending the funding, if that's what they've given us, in the correct manner and a timely manner and as efficiently as possible, where that and there of course the transparency comes in, that we basically put everything out there and make that clear. So and of course that then in turns is an important element in whether we are interesting to them in the next round. Ensure data results are clear, reliable, truthful, and reproducible. Exactly. Good point. I'm now reading from the chat box, and it reflects M&E, monitoring and evaluation. Yes. The progress reports written by the project itself or the organization implementing it is mostly part of the monitoring function. Is like a self-monitoring, and there is an element of self-evaluation in it. We'll also come into the evaluation part and discuss that a little bit further. But yes, there is an element of monitoring and evaluation in the report writing. If a report is good, there is a reflection that has an element of self-evaluation in it. Right. So over to the proposals. Very often what we see in the development world is two main types of proposals. Well, not necessarily. You have the donors need to report to their boards or investor exactly. So it's also useful for them to report back to whoever they respond to. Also a good point. So you have proposals that come out as a response of a call, or those that we call open. So a response to a call, we will go to that first. That is, when an agency, a donor agency or a fund, for us now, what we see is very often called for something called the SDG fund. There is something called the multi-partner trust fund for COVID-19, the multi-partner trust fund for persons with disabilities, the Fund for Human Security. These are examples of funds. Some of them are managed by the UN, by secretariats. They are funded by many donors. And from time to time, they publish calls for proposals. And they basically are very, and then they expect agencies of the UN or partnerships, including agencies of the UN and NGOs, etc., or NGOs or INGOs, depending on who is selectable for it, to respond to that call specifically. And these calls are very often very precise in the sense that they are for a specific purpose. They can be sent out globally, but they will be to establish a system for shock-resistant social protection in country X, for instance. That's one example. And there is very often a frame, say that between $500,000 and $1 million, or 50 to 300,000, and you have to keep within that. But if you are to respond to a call and you see that the call is put out, it could be, as I said, by one of these funds, but also bilateral donors do that. Going back again to the child labor, the US Department of Labor did for many years basically hand quite a lot of money to the ILO to work on child labor, and then the rules changed by Parliament, and they had to put all of these projects out as a call. So what used to be a dialogue between us and them about where we should be focusing, what we should be focusing on, how much money we would need to do that, and so on, suddenly became a document published on their website for periodically, like every year, of about 50 pages, giving all the details just up front. And the only thing that was remaining for us to do, and of course, this was now a competition, the very often NGOs, national or international, that will compete, would be to say, so this is what you want us to work on, this is what you want us to achieve, this is what you want us to do, and this is how we want to do it. But if you are to respond to a call, first and most important point is to understand the precise details of the call. So read it over and over again. Some of these calls, and I can give an example here of one that I was directly involved in. Some of them have very, let's say, they can throw you out for very basic things. Like if they have, for instance, a section in the template saying, describe your main objectives, 500 words max. If you write 510 words, they might throw the project out. So it can be that specific. Font size. I once sent a project that had to be maximum 2 pages, the concept note, in Times New Roman 12 points to a donor. I'm not going to name the donor, but this is a true story. And it came back rejected because when it was converted into a PDF file, and then it was sent to a donor using a different format. You know, you have either A4 or letter as a paper size. Somehow in that conversion, the donor in this case decided that the font size used was not 12 point, but 11.5. And we actually got a letter back saying that the project had been rejected based on the fact that we had used Times New Roman 11.5, which wasn't correct, but that's what happened. So very stupid, especially the best word for it. Things like that can actually throw a project out. So it's very important to read even those details very precise, very carefully, and follow it to the letter in every call. Examine your response capacity. In this case, it is not only I'm not only referring to the capacity to deliver the project itself if you were to win it, but to actually develop it on time. Because some of these calls, first of all, they come out with a very short turnaround time. You see a call and you have to send your concept note in 2 weeks. And that concept note can have quite a few requirements in terms of information, data, background, even audit reports, things like that, that takes quite a lot of energy and capacity and manpower to put together. So before investing in it, I think it's always important to evaluate the likelihood or possibility of actually winning it. How kind of central would I be to what is asked here? How well can I do this? How well can I sell my added value? And secondly, do I have the manpower capacity to do this and deliver a quality product that will be considered seriously and either be approved directly or, which often happens with call, go to the second round when you then are being asked to develop from the concept note, go to the full project document. So it's important to sort of know whether you can actually do it and what assistance before investing a lot of time and energy on it. Also, very often when donors, agencies come out with calls, there are templates, and you are expected to use those templates. And sometimes, let's say that you have worked with this donor before, you have been on that call before, you have done it this way before, and you kind of you're tempted to go back to using the same format. But from one call to another, even if it is, let's say, the same SDG fund, the templates or the formats might have changed. So it's very important to make sure that you are downloading and using the latest ones and not which might be the same ones that you used last year, but they might not be those. And also pay attention to the implementation rules, also to make sure that you would be able to do this once again and that you have the capacity to implement if you were to win. I will go back to that. I will ask for, I went through that a little bit quickly, but before I move on, I would like to ask whether there are any comments, disagreements. I mean, or experiences people have had with participating in calls. I would be happy to hear them. And if someone disagrees with me, then that would be even better, because that would be an interesting discussion. So I will open the floor if anyone would like to comment on any of these points related to responding to a call. Has any of you actually done it? Responded to a call? Should I assume that no one has actually done this, or that you just don't want to say? Well, I hear nothing, so I will move on to the next slide then, which is related to something that I would expect that many of you have had some experience with, which is an open project or an open proposal design, which involves a direct engagement with a potential partner. So I would like to ask any of you whether you once again have international partners already that you work with, or whether there are people that you we don't have to kind of discuss it, but let's do it maybe in the chat as a show of hands. So let's say, how many of you have developed or have an international partner that you work with? Any hands? No one working with anyone? Or have I lost you?
Hello again. You haven't, I can hear everything you're saying. The union here, the National Union of Public Workers, we engage quite often with both regional and international unions, other unions. So in terms of an actual donor, it's not done in that same format, but we do engage with each other and partner with each other when there are issues that concern labor unions across the globe. We usually lend support to each other in that way.
So you are more of a, let's say, technical and political cooperation than
Yes,
a
that a donor partnership where you have to provide proposals and so on. That's not really the format or the light in which we transact our business, but we do cooperate with other unions in the region and unions internationally and different types of unions, like for example, transport unions, and so on.
Yeah, with the what used to be called the ITSs, now I think they're called GUFs.
Correct, exactly.
The sectoral international unions.
Yes.
No, and that's actually a good example, because some of them, and also some national unions, I actually have that kind of background. Before joining the ILO, I used to work in, just to be transparent, I used to work in the international department of the Norwegian Confederation of Trade Unions, and we were actually there basically, in a sense, although we got our money from the Norwegian government, we were in turn a donor to projects with other partner unions around the world. So these international unions can also be donors, and they do engage in development cooperation projects.
There's another response in the chat.
Okay.
Yes. YMCA always partners with private sector and regional YMCA to fund programs. Exactly. So it's basically the national. I think that is and I would ask there also from, well, I have some experience once again from my days working on child labor, because a lot of that work, particularly on the ground, depended on civil society organizations, on NGOs. But apart from that, my impression is very often that in some cases we see that national or local, let's say, branches of bigger international NGOs are supported by their regional and bigger ones, and of course private sector is a good point. Right. Anyone else want to say anything about that? But okay, then we can go to the open ones. They are and this is kind of the question I asked. Relationships matter. Whether you already have a point of contact within the potential partner agency. The one point I wanted to make on that is that for, let's say, open, which is not responding to a call, the open proposal, that is the one where you as an NGO, you as a civil society organization or union or an employer's organization, have you have a project idea, you have something you want to achieve, something you want to change, and you need to do something, and you need resources, you need support, and you need to write a proposal. In addition to the proposal, there is the knowledge about where to go with it, and that's where the homework comes in. These days, it's easier than it used to be, because most donor agencies, be they public or private, even from enterprises, they're their CSR programs. They're generally easy to find on the internet, on their websites. So it's possible to do quite a lot of, desk research to find out who might be interested in funding what I do, where I work. So that's important. And then it is important to develop the contacts, because it's amazing how many projects and funding opportunity comes out of people talking to each other, and that someone knowing someone. It happens particularly with the open ones, where someone can be discussing, and it can be, and that's actually personal experience once again, where you're in a different setting discussing a different things, but then you happen to mention that we are looking for a way to fund this and this activity, and then suddenly someone said, you know what, we might be able to help. And for that, relationship building is important, and the research, the background, because if you have a project in a certain field, let's say to support training opportunities, employment for young persons with disabilities, for instance. There will be some donors out there for that, but other donors will not have that in their sphere of interest. So it's important to know who to target, and where possible to build a relationship with them. So once again, do you have mutual interest with them? What is it? What do you know about them, and what is it that you have been able to have them know about you? In my former duty station before coming to the Caribbean, I was based in the ILO's regional office for Arab states, where a lot of our works were related to the Syrian refugee crisis, basically the many millions of refugees that came from the crisis in Syria into Lebanon and Jordan, and to work with both the government and the donor community to find ways and solutions to their living conditions, and also their opportunities to earn a livelihood, develop skills, and so on. I mean, there are many other things related to the plight of refugees, but from the ILO's point of view, because what we deal with is the world of work, that was our part of the focus. And for that purpose, what we did, and that took a couple of years actually, we developed quite a lot of paper, brochures, flyers, even a study or two, which we basically then started to knock on doors and go around to the different bilateral donors that were interested in supporting the UN system on the Syrian refugee crisis. But what we really found was that what was important to them then was that we had something tangible, concrete, showcasing who we were, because we could come to a donor agency and they had sort of vaguely, the ILO is not, let's say, the most famous UN agency out there. I mean, there are a lot more that I've heard about, for instance, UNICEF, which in many ways, because of their focus on children, is a lot more visible publicly than for instance the ILO. The ILO is well known to its constituency and not very far beyond that. Very often we find, and so to have something tangible, showing what you are, and showing how you have actually done something making a difference in this area that you seek support for before. Not necessarily there because we hadn't, but we had other examples from other parts of the world which we could put up and say, we do this. We did this in Indonesia after the tsunami in 2004. on labor-intensive public works projects, for instance, ensuring decent work. And then we can say, and we want to translate that experience into the refugee crisis. And through doing that, and through building these relationships, and keeping insisting and preparing proposals, we ended up with quite a solid portfolio of projects doing exactly that, using labor-intensive methodologies to do public works projects, which were much needed both in Lebanon and Jordan, and securing both training opportunities and employment for refugees, which they desperately needed it. And also to have the knowledge about how these donors support your type of NGO, your type of agency. Are they a donor to similar type of organizations, which is then a good sign. That means that there might be a way in. So once again, it's about doing the homework on the donors. So I'm not sure whether I got an answer to the donor call question, whether anyone has been involved in that. Would anyone try to venture an idea what would be, let's say, the standard components of a donor call? What if a donor comes out with a call to develop a proposal? What would they? What components would you expect to find there? What would you have to put into it? Anyone? It would be good if anyone ventured to say something, because now I'm starting to get very tired of my own voice. So. Very quiet.
Ask the question again, please.
Yes, if it's basically what's on the slide. You can still see the slide, can't you? I'm sharing the screen. So standard components of donor calls. A donor call normally has a few components, things that you would need to put into your proposals, elements of the proposal.
Okay, sorry, I'm not seeing your slides anymore.
Are you not seeing my slides anymore? Is that for everyone? Because it says I'm sharing the screen, but...
No, the slide is there.
I can see it.
Okay, it is there. So there's a big slide saying standard components of donor calls. Just to make sure. That...
I would think that you would start with your mission and your vision.
Yeah. Which is part of one of the components. So, okay.
The objective for which the funding is being sought, purpose and objective.
Yeah, which is part.
And you would also give some background, a little bit of background information on your organization.
Yeah.
They would also want to know if you have the capacity to carry out the project.
Mm.
Also, what benefit the donor would derive.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I had said also what benefits the donor would derive.
Okay, that would probably go into another component. Okay, I will show because most of what you have said are absolutely correct, technical and financial components. Okay, those are two components and they go in different sections. Let's start with, oh, it all came up now. I hope it would. Okay, right, cut this out of the bag. I had hoped that would just show one at a time, but I didn't have the correct, but anyway. The concept note, what you said about the objectives, biography of chief players, I see, the background, competency, and so on. All of that, the objectives to a point are part of the concept note, which is the description of what it is we set out to achieve and how we want to do that. Then, let me see, there's something I need to find here in this. Sorry. Looking for. Yeah, then you have what's called the intervention, the concept note. So the concept note is basically the descriptive part of the project. This is my project. This is what I want to do. This is who I am. It is very important. Someone did talk about the background of an added value in that. That also goes into the concept note. But this is where I describe the concept. Then there is something called intervention logic, and we will talk more about that both today and tomorrow, because this is to a certain extent, well, that's a very important part of it. We often, it has different names. Someone would call it a logical framework or results framework, and it will include elements of monitoring and evaluation. So how you will go about evaluation. And for monitoring, there will also be indicators there, for instance. So how are you going to measure results so that you can monitor and evaluate? This also goes into this the intervention logic or logical framework or result framework. We have an expression in Norwegian that translated would mean beloved child has many names, and clearly the intervention logic is something that some people are very fond of. And the budget, very important, clear and detailed budget. And in a call, the budget is generally a template that you have to fund, and also very important to follow the template on how the budget should be, because there are different ways of doing it. Back in the day, very often the way we would set up a budget was that we would have like a top part, which would be the where we would put the staff, the office rent, the furniture, all of these expendables, and then you would have an activity line, and then you would have some other bits and pieces. Now, budget seems to be more and more, and that's kind of been a trend over the last decade at least, outcome-based, that you set up, so they are linked directly to the intervention logic, and you kind of have to put in your resources and your budget linked to each outcome. And that means that you also have to look at the staff time for the different budget and so on. It's a bit more complicated, but in the end, it's just sort of turning around the same thing. Communication and visibility, once again, important, very often forgotten. And I know that from experience because I have done that. that you actually put in a very clear plan for how you are going to communicate the result and how you are going to ensure visibility. That is already in the call. But once again, going back to the former slide, it is very, very important to read very carefully what is asked for in the call. Right.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Is there a possibility that you could share a copy of what the budget would look like, a template, like a template for those of us
Yeah,
who are
exactly.
like in sporting organizations and so on.
I can do that between today and tomorrow. I will send that to. I will give an example of a. I will find an example of a call, maybe one that we have even worked on, and just sort of show, so you can see an example of what a template is. I will do that, and I will send it to the Ministry of Labor so that they can make sure that everyone gets it. Just as an example, and then I will do that this afternoon, and then maybe we can even discuss it a bit tomorrow.
Thank you.
So yeah, notice duly taken on that. Let me see, where are we time-wise? Yeah, okay, we're doing fairly well actually. I will now pass to, yes, let's go to the intervention logic, which I believe would then be the next slide. I know we're still on the concept note, sorry. So yes, important points for the concept note. To identify the interventions, the objectives and results to be attained in relation to the existing policy or strategy or program that's, you know. To explain your comparative advantage, that was already mentioned. What is it? What is it we do? Why should the money go to me? What is my added value? And the last one is to indicate the means of implementation. So how am I going to implement? Will I have partners? Will I rely on others? And who are these others? And why are they key partners if I identify them as key partners? Because very often when you talk about key partners, it means that you depend on them for the project to happen. So these three elements need to be or should be in any good concept note, or the concept note part of a call. Right, and just to move forward on the concept note, the intervention logic. This is something that addresses how the proposed project or program will be implemented through a description of action. And this is something we will come back to further on, particularly tomorrow. I think we'll talk a lot about what we often refer to as RBM and results-based management. And the intervention logic and the logical framework is a very important part of that. So the description of action is a narrative. It is something that we call a theory of change, or something that we also will come back to, and also a graphic presentations of the results framework, very often the matrix, where you have your overall objective, your outcome, your outputs, and your activities. And we will do a little exercise in that. If I can make that happen, I hope it's possible. That depends a little bit on technology helping me or not, but let's try that. Right. I believe that, no, this one we should wait with. Now, let me see if I can Let's see if this is possible. Now it's what I call bear with me time, because, right. Can you see that screen, that document?
Yes, but the writing is very fine.
Okay, right. So the thing is that what I wanted to do now, and I know I will have to ask our colleagues who are steering the IT. One of the there are several ways of doing this. We can do it as either a group work, but I'm not sure how to divide into groups. It would have been so much easier if we were in the same room, but right now I'm not sure. So we might have to do it as an individual exercise, and then we just come back after a while and so on. What I'm not sure about is whether it is possible to. I shared this earlier. Whether it's possible to sort of share this with people so that whoever has access to it at least can sort of get it on their own screen or on their or even download or even print out. Is that something that's doable? I'm asking colleagues in charge.
In terms of the emails, I have, I think, most of the emails. I'm not sure I have all because I heard
It can't be uploaded to the chat. You know, on Skype, you can sort of, just put the document there, and then it can be downloaded directly from.
You should be able to upload a file via the chat.
Yeah, this is that. Let me try. I do that. You can add the document to the chat. Yes.
Well, that's okay.
Right. Can anyone tell me how I do that? Then, because then I will upload it, and those of you who have access and yeah, you can download and even print, and then it's easier for you to go through it and work on it and spend some time on it. If not, I can also just leave it on the screen, but the problem is that the screen doesn't really show the whole.
See the three little dots close on their lower.
3 little dots. That's it.
Yes. Does one of them say anything about files from yours? Depending on what kind of access you have to it.
That's the thing. I sent it to the Minister of Labor, so the document should be there. Host, you will have access, I guess.
And the host should be able to add a file.
So if the host has the file, then it should be possible to have, because I can only save chat. That's the only possibility I have. Okay, while they're working on that, Rhonda, please tell me if
we will try and work on that for you, Larry.
If there is something I can do, we can. In the meantime, I will explain what the exercise is. And as I said, normally I would have liked to do it as a group work, but given the format, it's probably easier to just do it as an individual exercise, and then we come back and discuss it later. And that this exercise and the discussion of it will then be basically how we end today, and then we come back tomorrow, because I'm aware you have been online now since 9 o'clock, and one of the problems with online workshops is that they get tiring very quickly. I know that from experience, but I think that we are where we are if we then do this little exercise. So basically, this is an exercise which goes a bit to the logical framework, or the results framework, if you may. And it...
A slight request. Can you increase the size?
Yes, I can.
At the bottom of the page so we can read it a little bit.
Let's see. Be better now?
Yes.
So
That's better.
first of all, this is elements from a project. It's actually elements from a real project, but it's kind of taken out of context and jumbled up. So it's a bit of a test. But once again, not to worry. It is basically meant to. It's not an exam. It is meant to spark discussion. And we might actually, given the time it is, to give you enough time to look at it, study it, and work on it. We might actually end with that today, and then start tomorrow with the discussion of that of it, because I think that we would want to spend a bit of time on it. So basically, it is a project. So it's about the logical framework approach again, and it is, when assessing your knowledge, it is taken from a test, but don't see it as an assessment of knowledge. That's I should take that away. But it's more to look at basic elements of the LFA. Actually, it is from a written test for a post with the island. So you know that's where it's taken from. So it's a project that is targeting child scavengers that work on a garbage site or a dump site. And the project is aiming at reducing child labor at this dump site. So there are 3 tasks. One is to identify in which category the different elements that are mentioned, that are taken out of the context, out of the project. This is from a logical framework or project document, as I said. Which one describes the problem, the main problem we want to solve? What is it? The T refers to the target groups. So where is the description of the target groups? What is the development objective, or you can also call it a longer term outcome? By that I mean the one that the project will contribute to, not the one that we will have achieved at the end of the project, but the one that this project is a contribution to achieving. The immediate objective or objectives, which is the project outcome. This is basically where we want to be at the end of the project. What are the outputs, the activities, and the inputs? So here you have then the list: 200 working boys and girls at the dump site provided with nutrition and health services. What of this fits that description? I'm not going to ask you to say it now, because I want you to take your time and study it. Hopefully with medicine, first aid, material, and food. What is that? Is that an objective? Is it an output, an activity, an input? An international child labor specialist, what is that? So that's the first task.
Question. I have a question. How do you go about compiling this list in the first place?
No, it's not a list. It's not compiled as a list. I've made it into a list now because it's basically been jumbled from the project. So in the first place, what this was, and that's where the tricky part is. What you do is, and that is what we will talk more about tomorrow. That's where your theory of change, and that's where your development of the logical framework come in, where you basically start with what do I want to achieve, what is my outcome, what do I want to contribute to, what is the longer term development objective here, and to do that, what do I need to produce, which means what are the outputs, and to deliver these outputs that I need for my outcome, what is the what are the activities I need to do? What do I need to do to produce these outputs, which will then lead to the outcome? In the end, what is the you see, I'm not the only one who's getting right. What activities, and of course, to be able to do these activities, what are my inputs? what do I need to do? I see there is a new message. Can the slides be sent to our emails? The size is starting to affect my eyes. Yes, I mean, once again, I am happy to do that. I have not sent the slides yet to, I don't want to share all the slides before before I've given them, because then I'm advancing things, but because this, yes, work months. Thank you for that question. That's important, work months. National project manager, 24 work months. So that's basically 2 years of a national project manager. The same here at 12, an international child labor specialist, 12 work months. So this is what it is. So it's basically to, from what the text is here, how this is written, to basically try to figure out what it is. So basically, okay, I will give one. Number 5, medicines, first aid, material, and food. Okay, what is that? Is that the problem? Anyone? No. Is medicine, first aid, material, and food something that could be described as a target group?
No.
Yeah, I see someone has already written inputs. It's an input, exactly. So that's the logic of the exercise. It's basically to see, to read it and see, okay, so what is this? Is this the problem? Is it the target group that I'm reading about here? Is it a development objective? Is it an immediate objective? So the project outcome, what happens at the end of the project? Is it an output that is described here, or is it an activity or an input? So it's a fairly simple exercise in that.
Yes, question here.
Yes.
Can you have two different, for the, what would you call it now? The top section, can we have 2 of those to match any of what you have there at the bottom? No?
What do you mean 2 of what?
Like for problem, target, and so, can you have any 2 to match any of those below?
No, each of them, that I can also tell you, each of them has only one right answer.
Only one, okay.
Also, can that be an output as well? Okay, that's kind of preempting the discussion from tomorrow. Yes, it could be an output if the project were to produce medicine, first aid, material, and food. Then it would be that. But in that case, what we are going to do is the project is to target child scavengers, and the aim is to reduce child labor at the dump site. And then to have medicines, first aid, material, and food is normally something that you would bring to the project as an input. So yes, while it could be an output if it is something you produce in the project, in this case, it would be an input. Right. So I'm not going to give away more because we will discuss this further. Establish the logical relations between the identified outputs and activities. So after you have identified, right, let me see, I have done something a bit dumb here. I've given away right, if you saw that, then forget it, because the idea is that when you identify your outputs and your activities, you will have a few O's and a few A's in that list. Then you take the outputs you have, which could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, but you've already seen how many there are. And then you link activities to them. So which activities that are listed here contribute to which outputs? That's the second test. So, and then the last question is what immediate objective or project outcome, so the IO, do the outputs link to? That's the absolute last. Basically, because this will then give us, and that's something we will discuss further tomorrow morning, the chain from activity to output to outcome. And there should be causality. One thing should lead to the other. So that is basically what this little exercise is about, trying of de-scrambling this, which is now all messed up, and make it logically. Is it clear to everyone what we want to do?
Yes.
I see some hands in the or thumbs up, so I hope it is. If it isn't, well, I would only say have a go. Once again, this is not an exam. This is just to sort of, first of all, break up, so it's not just me speaking, and to have that as a basis then for when we retake this tomorrow morning. Then we will discuss the logical framework and the intervention logic through using that as an example. Once again, I'm Rhonda, how are we on the possibilities of sharing this? Because it depends a little bit on being able to do that.
Okay, I have sent it to the email addresses that I have. What I have to do is to get the email addresses from David, the other ones that I don't have, the persons that are registered. So once I can have that, then I will share with all the other persons. But some persons should have gotten it already. Without the change that you just made, sorry.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, so that's a little giveaway then. You
yes.
have it because that was my mistake, because I used one which had all the answers and I forgot to put those away. So okay, it's not important. Once again, this is not an exam, so you have those.
Right.
You have a little gift there from section B, but that's okay. Anyway, then I, while you do that and make sure that everyone receives that and works with it, then I think that I will. It is now noon. It is 12 o'clock, just about. So.
Just about.
So I think that works well, and so I will sign off for today, not to keep you. I see. Yeah, exactly. That might also be an idea, that people who have not received it and whose email, that you put the email in the chat box.
Yes.
So
Thank you, guys. You can do that for the persons who have not received. You can put your email.
We make sure that people either have received it or are.
Yes, I see Truly has received, and Ms. Harper Hall.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only one email address in the chat book. Here comes another one. NDD Brathwaite.
John.
Jay Jackson. Oh wow, now they're coming thick and fast.
That's not furious. Okay.
Yeah, make sure that the ones who write their email address there, that those are the ones who have not yet received the document, because as I said, it's a lot better that you have it your own copy of it, instead of just because in the screen, if you're going to have it big enough, then it will be it won't be all of it, and then so it's better that you then you can work on it a bit sort of with calm when it's convenient for you, either now or this afternoon, as long as you have had a go at it before we reconvene tomorrow morning.
That seems to be it. No?
Okay. Right.
That's it, yeah.
It seems now that everyone. Do you have all the addresses that have been sent?
That seems to be it, and Lars.
Yes, that seems to be it. Just to be sure that it doesn't disappear.
Correct.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, so thank you very much for your patience this morning, once again, and for bearing with me. I'm sure it would have been even more interactive and interesting if we had been able to be in the same place and in the same room. That hopefully those days will come soon. At what time do we convene tomorrow? Just to so we're all in agreement on that. 9 o'clock or 9:30?
You have no response?
I hear no response. 9:30, okay. So 9:30 is fine with me. But punctually at 9:30, and we start at 9:30. We're okay with that?
Yes,
That sounds good. Fine.
And hopefully tomorrow will be even more informative. That's when the plan is to go more into the let's say the meat of the different segments and sections of the proposals. So hopefully we will spend 2.5, 3 hours tomorrow, and at the end of it, hopefully, you will have something useful. And of course, at the end of it, I will also share the presentation, the slides with the colleagues at the ministry, and so you will all have copies of that to be able to refer to if you want to and need to. So then I will just say thank you so much for today, and see you tomorrow morning, I guess on this same Skype link at 9:30. Is that the case, Rhonda?
Yes, it is 9:30. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, I hope you all. I hope to see you all. I know that right now I have 50-something people, and I hope to see all of you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Bye.